With huge ramifications for all Americans, the battle over President Obama's budget, $3.6 trillion, a staggering number to comprehend. It includes a long list of spending priorities. Republicans already on the attack over some of them. So what does the plan mean for you and your money? Joining me now is Deborah Wright. She's the CEO of Carver Bank Corp., one of the largest minority-led financial institutions in the United States. Financial advisor Sherry Williams, and with us from Westchester, Pennsylvania this morning, leading economist Mark Zandi of MoodysEconomy.com. The centerpiece of the budget here is a move toward universal health care, shifting the energy economy away from oil and gas, boosting the federal commitment to education. Deborah, start us off here this morning. Can he get this all done?
I think it's bold. If he's going to get it done, it's right now.
Right. Sherry, I mean, this just one of these things would typically be a lot to try to chew on over the next year, but he's got so much in this budget.
I would agree. There's a lot going on in the budget. Having said that, with healthcare, for example, there aren't a lot of details, and I think that's on purpose. I think that's to give the president and Congress some time to define those details. There's going to have to be a lot of details here. The devil is going to be in the details. It's like running a large company 10 times that size.
You know, Mark, I've covered a lot of these budget releases, and I have never seen a figure like $1.75 trillion in terms of the annual debt. And looking at the tables going forward, President Obama will grow the debt by $5 trillion by the time his first term in office is over. I mean, are these sustainable numbers?
Well, I think they're necessary in the near term. I think the government has to be very aggressive to fight the crisis, the economic and financial crisis. And so that's costly. That's stimulus, that's help to the banking system, that's foreclosure mitigation. So that all is very costly. I think if the president sticks to the script that he laid out in the budget, and while that's going to be tough, I think it's reasonably doable, then we'll be headed in the right direction by the end of his term. But in the very near term, in the next couple, 3 years, I think he has no choice. He's going to have to be very aggressive.
And he's taking on a lot of special interests in this budget, Debbie. Agribusiness, banks, wealthy Americans as well, raising taxes on people making more than $250,000 a year. And in the New York Times, Robert Greenstein from the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities said he takes on one vested interest after another, and that will require all of the president's skills to get through Congress. Can he do it? Does he have the political capital?
I think he does. I mean, Americans voted for change, and he's the first one to admit that all these issues are interrelated. So the health care problem is something that we care about on the streets in terms of care and getting it to everybody that we can, but it's also very expensive and inefficient. So they all connect, and I think poor people, working people, middle class people, and wealthy people all know that we have to address these issues right now.
And this is a real shift from the Bush administration too, Sherry, where they really kind of threw it out there to the free market. The president now wants to use the power of the government in terms of taxation and spending to try to push private enterprise into a different direction. And he's getting a lot of blowback from it from Republicans. Judd Gregg, we can see why he didn't become Commerce Secretary now. He said, where's the restraint on spending? Are we back to tax and spend ways?
I think it's a different era. I think this budget proposal is consistent with Obama's platform. I think our country needs a new economic direction. I think the push for healthcare, energy, and education is going to be critical as we go forward, not just for the next 5 years, but for the next 20 to 50 years for this country. And we need to continue to push on those platforms, even around the financial crisis. We can't wait with clean energy and new ways to diversify the country away from oil.
And you know, Mark, we were talking about all of the big numbers here, $1.75 trillion in debt this year, total of $5 trillion over the next 5 years. And some people are wondering if the math adds up. Can all of this be paid for? There are some people who think that the assumptions on economic growth are just too rosy in this budget. 3.9% growth by 2010 and then 4% in the next 3 years. A lot of people surveyed, economists surveyed, said that, hey, we might get 2.9% growth over the next 4 years. Do you think that these numbers are too optimistic, these assumptions in economic growth?
Yeah, they're optimistic, particularly in 2009 and 2010. I think they're expecting the economy to come back quickly, more quickly than I would expect, and I think the consensus would expect. I think a bit further out, once we get out into the out years of the forecast, I think it's reasonable. The projections are on the optimistic side, but they're doable. But in the very near term, yeah, I think they're on the optimistic side.
So does that mean that he cannot pay for what he wants to do?
It's going to be more difficult. I think what's important, though, is that once we get out towards the end of his term, past hopefully this economic crisis, even if he doesn't hit his $500 billion number in fiscal year 2013, if the trend lines are good, if it appears that the deficits are headed in the right direction, I think that will be an achievement in the context of all the things that we're going through right now.
All right, a lot of this is all theory. Mark Zandi for us this morning from Westchester, Pennsylvania. Debbie Wright and Sherry Williams. Good to see you this morning, folks. Thanks for coming in.